Welcome to Solo, the single person's guide to a remarkable life. Your host, a behavioral scientist and bachelor, talks to leading experts and successful singles about living solo and living well. Travel more, make things, sleep in when you want to. Here's the playbook for the person who is unapologetically unattached. Now, please welcome Dr. Peter McGraw.
Welcome back. As you know, I like to host short series when I start to contemplate a new topic. This is part of a series that investigates unconventional relationships. The first episode was about people seeking arrangements, sugar babies, daddies, and mommies. The second looked at friends with benefits, aka sexual friendships. In this episode, we look at people who are seeking companionship in the form of a pet. Note, we already began this investigation of pet ownership months ago by examining the crazy cat lady stereotype. You can find information about that in the Solo community. You can join at petermcgraw.org/solo. It remains free for now. In this episode, I speak to a dog owner and stand-up comic. Comedians are great guests for this topic because pets are not practical given their lifestyle, and comics often have compelling insights. My guest is Lisa Curry, an internationally touring comedian and TV writer. She's written for True TV, NBC, and Comedy Central, where she was a staff writer on The Jim Jeffries Show. Lisa headlines clubs and opens for Jeffries in theaters between staff writing jobs. Her debut comedy album, Alive for a While, is in consideration for a Grammy nomination. I take her through a survey that I'm creating for my newly launched project, A Single Insight, The Science of Solos. She answers those questions. I hope you enjoyed the episode. Let's get started. Welcome, Lisa.
Hey, how are you, Peter?
I'm good. Are you ready to talk about pets?
I am, always.
And are you ready to talk about your pet?
Oh, absolutely. That's all I talk about.
And that's why you're here. So before we do that, before we get to your pet, or pets in general, let's talk about you. So you're a new friend. You're a Twitter friend.
Yeah.
I'm forcing my friendship on you.
I do that with a lot of people, so I respect that.
Yes. We actually have met once before, and you said you collect friends.
I do.
Yeah.
I am overly sentimental, and even if I lose touch with somebody, I'll still look them up years later. Like even people I didn't have like that much of a connection with. If somebody pops into my head, I'll look them up just because I want to make sure they're doing okay.
Like on Facebook?
Yeah.
Oh, interesting.
Like old classmates, like somebody from first grade will pop into my head, and I'm like, oh, I hope they're doing okay. Let me look them up.
Wow, that's so nice of you. I don't do that. You are catching stride professionally.
It feels really nice.
Yes. Yeah. You have a campaign you're working on right now. Shamelessly plug it.
My debut comedy album.
Which is called?
Alive for a While. I'm very proud of the title.
It's very nice.
It's clever.
Yeah.
It's up for Grammy consideration right now. It was submitted and I just voted for myself yesterday, which feels really good. And I'm really excited. Even if it doesn't go anywhere, I'm like, oh my goodness, I'm on the ballot for the Grammys. I'm in the Recording Academy. I just voted for myself. It's such a surreal thing. And it's still, that feels really special. But everything in my career feels really special.
You're hitting stride right now, I would say. It's wonderful to see.
Oh, thank you so much.
From afar. And I had actually remarked on one of your Twitter, Instagram photos at the Recording Academy. Mm-hmm. And I thought you were just visiting the museum. And I said, it looks like you belong there.
Yeah.
And the answer is you do belong there.
Yes.
Yes. That's really fabulous. I'll tell you this, as a professor, I regularly vote against myself.
Oh.
Because what happens is you often get nominated to be on committees.
And you're like, I don't want to be on this committee.
And the faculty votes to see who they want representing them on the committee. And so I never want to be on the committee, so I vote against myself.
See, I'm like, along with collecting people, I like to collect memberships. So I just kind of want to be in everything. I don't understand where this comes from.
It's very uncomic-like of you.
Yeah. It is weird because I'm in the TV Academy and the Recording Academy and Women in Animation and the WGA. And I'm like, I'm just trying to get into everything.
You should have become an academic. There's so many of these things to join.
I'm dying to sit on the board of something, and that's like not even a joke. A friend of mine who's really big in tech recommended me to this startup, and I almost got a slot as somebody on the board of the startup, and then they had somebody else, and I was like, no, I want to say I'm on the board.
That's hilarious. Okay, so you collect people, you collect memberships,
Yes.
badges, basically,
Yes,
a lot of badges and so on. What about your relationship status? Are you single?
Single-ish.
Single-ish.
Yeah. Seeing someone, but it's in a weird gray area.
Okay, all right. As many people are.
Yeah,
Who are dating.
I don't love that, but I do like the freedom I get with it.
Yes. I have developed a taxonomy of singles,
Okay.
and I have been trying it out on the podcast before I finalize it. I'm working on a book. I need
This
to
is great.
finalize it for the book. So I want to figure out what type of single person you are.
Okay.
Okay. So there's 4 types. So be patient before you join one of them. I know you're going to be
Okay.
desperate to join one of the groups. I'll give you a sticker.
Which one comes with a medal? Yeah.
Now, for the regular listener, these have come a long way because they used to be type 1, type 2, type 3, and type 4, which is the least exciting
hmm
name for I'm a type 2.
How long have you been working on this, by the way? Can I ask?
The taxonomy?
Yeah.
Months, not years.
Okay.
Yes.
That's really fascinating.
It's very fun. I like to make figures and graphs and
hmm
tables. And
It's very
and
satisfying.
things. It is indeed. Okay. I'm pretty sure you're not the first. So the first I call someday. So
Okay.
these are people who someday want to be in a traditional long-term relationship. Marriage, typically, right? What we would call the relationship escalator. They're desperate. Desperate's a strong word. They desire to ride the relationship
Yeah.
escalator. You might call them a hopeless romantic.
Sure. Or a Midwesterner. Either.
Yes, exactly. Well said. And then, okay, so that's
Mhm.
the first type. The second type, all the way through 4, are all more what I would call solo in orientation.
Mhm.
That is, they're more independent in how they view relationships. They don't see a relationship as completing them.
Yes.
And most notably, the next group is just may. I just may be in a long-term relationship. I just
Oh,
may be in a
okay.
traditional
Yeah.
relationship escalator. It'd be nice if it happens, but if it doesn't, so be it.
Right.
My life is good. I'm
Mhm.
happy with how I'm living. Okay. Number 3, the no ways. I'm not interested in a relationship.
Right.
For now or forever. Working on other things. I'm under Grammy consideration. I'm spending all my time doing that. Maybe you just recently divorced, want to work on yourself,
Mhm.
or you're what Bella DePaulo calls single at heart. You like your alone time and you're not interested in
Mhm.
something romantic or sexual with someone else. That's there. So those are even, and then at the most extreme is like the loner, the
Yeah.
person who doesn't even really like relationships in general.
Who I would say even romanticizes it. Who's like, I'm going to live this solo life and it's going to be like this poetic thing.
And a lot of comics sort of have that kind of lone wolf mentality. I'm out on the road. I'm on my own, kind of thing.
Mhm.
Unencumbered.
But they find other ways to be codependent.
It's called alcohol.
Yeah. True.
Perhaps, yes. Or weed nowadays.
Yeah.
And then the last, and this is the group that I'm most excited about, and that is a new way. And so these are people who are re-envisioning their relationships. So maybe they would prefer like a friends with benefits,
Mhm.
Something that is not as escalator-like, or they're non-monogamous, or they're polyamorous,
Mhm.
or they're involved in a relationship that might not be physically intimate, but is still romantic.
Mhm.
Right? There's the whole host of things that when you start peeling away the rules and start breaking the rules
Mhm.
of long-term relationships in order to make them work for you. The most notable extreme of this group is the relationship anarchist, the people who between the two or more people in the relationship, design the relationship, decide on the rules of the relationship.
Oh, okay.
So, for example, maybe it's not hierarchical. It's not more important than other relationships, and so on.
All right.
So are you
So I'm to choose now?
Someday, just may, no way, or a new way?
I'll say first, I think the new way people, when you say polyamorous, I know so many people that think they can separate feelings from sex. And
by the way, not all a new way people are polyamorous.
Yeah.
It's just one of the options.
Just one of the options.
Yes.
But those specifically, when somebody
I'm
says
not going to
that,
fight you on this.
when somebody says that, I'm like, okay, let's see how that works out. I think for me, I'm trying to figure out, I want to say I'm number 2. Number 2 leaning towards number 3. But I'm also so conditioned from like growing up in the Midwest and being raised Catholic. I'm so conditioned to be number 1 that sometimes I feel a pull towards that. And then I'm like, is that what I want, or is that what I'm told that I should want? You know, I'm like, I can't separate sometimes. But I think part of the draw of number 1 is there's something about that feels like it validates you in the same way that I seek validation in other things. Like, you've gotten the stamp of approval from this person.
No, not just from this person, from everyone.
Yeah, yes. From everyone at a wedding, and it's everyone's like celebrating this thing, and it's you did the right thing, where there isn't a parallel social award in number 2 and number 3. And people, especially like my family and everyone I grew up around, would never, maybe I would never as strong, but I can't imagine them looking at my life as a solo person and being like, look at her go. That's excellent. I feel like they feel sorry for me in a way. Some of them don't. But does that make sense? Where they're like,
Lisa, I've only spent time with you twice now. Mm-hmm. I completely understand where you're coming from. Maybe better than you do at this moment.
I hope you do, because I feel like I'm trying to figure it out.
So, first of all, the fact that you, as a comedian who spends their time pointing out what's wrong with the world and living this sort of counter-normative life, is finding it difficult to escape the someday category, which most people are in the someday category, you know, and never consider any other category. And that some of that for you is fueled by what other people think.
Yes.
And we kicked off this conversation by talking about how you pursue approval through all these external sources.
I'm so aware of it. It's funny because I want to say like, oh, it doesn't matter what other people think, and that I care deeply what other people think, but not like, kind of not always. Like, if people online don't like me, I don't care. If
these people close to you,
it will. And some of my family, I'm like, I don't care if you like me because I think you're a bad person. But overall, even if somebody hates me, I want them to hate me because they're like, oh, she's doing well. She's in the clubs. She has the awards.
Look at her happy relationship.
I want them. I think that's like also why I like the seal of approval in any situation is like an official seal of approval, because I'm like, well, you can hate me, but I'm still in the WGA, or I'm still this thing officially, you know? Like, you can't take that away from me. I'm still superior to you in this way.
I do appreciate your awareness of all of of all this, but I do think this highlights. First of all, thank you for your honesty about all of this. I think it highlights how pervasive these norms are and how much the world pushes people, even people who are good at being unconventional in other ways, towards this particular. This particular goal.
It's hard to break that. And I think another piece of it for me is, although I would say I'm like 90% a 2. And then sometimes I'm like, what if I just got a cottage in Wales and live there alone with my dog for the rest of my life? Like, that sounds extremely satisfying to me.
To move into the no way category.
Yeah, which is funny because I'm also very social, but I like to be social on my terms. I find it exhausting to be social nonstop. But I think also part of And not to just drag them, but because my family life was so rough. So one feels like, oh, I would have the opportunity to choose what my family is and choose my own family life and like make a nice home for a nice family. But then I'm like, when I really think about it, when I think of like the logistics of like a day to day of having kids and, you know, and pursuing that traditional life, that sounds like something I do not want. That sounds terrifying.
Yeah. This idea that people say they fit into multiple categories at the same time is not a new thing for me as I've been exploring this. So I get it. We're gonna say you're a just may.
Yeah. I think
sounds like
I'm most comfortable saying that. Yeah.
That's right. So this is a good segue though, because you said I just want to move to a cabin in the woods with my dog.
Yes.
Which is, I'm sure people are listening going, when the hell are we talking about pets? That's the only reason why I'm here. You have a dog?
I do. I love her so much.
I
have a 70-pound German Shepherd mix, mostly Shepherd.
Her name is?
Her name is Luna.
Luna.
I adopted her last April. So like right at the beginning of quarantine. She was 8 weeks old when I got her. And she's so smart and wonderful. And it's like, it's so nice to have a dog. It's the best thing because it's just endless love coming at you all the time.
They are love machines.
Yeah.
Many of them are.
Yeah. Some of them are, you know, like more on the Cujo spectrum.
Now, one of the things that's really fascinating is there's been a rise in single living in the United States and elsewhere. There's also been a rise in pet ownership, especially among single people.
Oh, that tracks.
It tracks. Now, at least on some dimensions, I think that in some ways the case for singles owning pets makes a lot of sense compared to families. And then in some ways, I think that there are some challenges associated with it. And yet, it's still growing. I mean, singles haven't closed the gap completely in terms of ownership compared to families, but it's decreasing. And especially in the last, I'd say, 10 years or so. So what I'd like to do is, and I've been exploring this topic with comics because of the comedian's perspective. They notice things that other people don't notice. They notice things that I don't notice. And so what gave me this idea is I just moved into my new box in the sky. People listen.
It's a great one.
It's a great box in the sky. And I was riding in the elevator with this guy who has I think it's a shepherd style dog. I can't remember exactly because the building I'm in is filled with animals.
Oh, I love that. I
mean, it's a higher proportion, I think, of pet owners here than even.
Are there pets that have their own condos here?
That's a business idea. Yes. Save that for the end because I have asked the question. You know, I would consider owning a pet if the pet lived in another residence.
Yes. That's fair. It is hard to keep a clean home when you have a pet. That's I feel like that's your number one job, and then your secondary job is taking care of yourself.
Okay, well, this is perfect. So what he said to me was the dog was sniffing the middle. We were in the elevator together, riding down. The dog is sniffing the floor. And he says to me, this is the message board.
Yes.
For the animals in this building. And then I said to him, are you a comedian? I swear to God. And then I realized I know him. We had done a show once before. Kind of a thing.
So he is a comedian.
Yeah. I'm like, Jim, oh my goodness, how are you? But it took his observation of the message board for me to think, is he a comedian?
That's really funny. When I walk my dog, when she sniffs things, I'm always like, oh, did somebody leave you a voicemail? Are you checking your messages?
Right. So it's so fascinating. So I've just been thinking a lot about this. I had a dog when I was a kid. We had a family dog named Bandit.
What kind of dog?
It was part shepherd, part something else. It was just a mutt.
Sure, yeah.
A very sweet, poorly trained animal, which happens when a single mother and two kids, you know, and the kids are left in charge of the dog.
Barely training the kids, let alone the dog.
I'm not saying it was the strongest choice to have a dog, but it was a sweet, sweet animal. I was quite fond of the name also. So I've launched this project called A Single Insight. And so instead of talking to singles, I'm now talking to organizations.
Oh.
So these are people who hire singles, and these are people who provide products and services.
That's
for
a thing?
singles. No, that's not a thing.
was like, is there a grant I should get?
No, they're not. The issue is these people are completely overlooking
Mhm.
the fact that half of the U.S. population is single.
Mhm.
Adult population is single. And so they just keep catering to family.
Yeah, I would say a higher percentage of the child population is single. Hopefully.
Yes. Let's keep it that way. So they keep catering to family. And a single insight is designed, that's called the science of solos, designed to point out the fact that these people have different needs, wants, desires. And I have a post about singles and their pets. And how might singles' relationships with their pets be different than families' relationships with their pets? And in order to make that post science-y, that's an official word, I'm running a survey.
Okay, I love this.
So I'm going to be asking pet owners, single and non-single pet owners, about their pets. And you and I share a love of advice.
I love to give it. I love to get advice.
I love to give it. I love to take it.
Because here's the thing is, I think people have a misconception about taking advice, and some people get really defensive. And it's like, you can hear all the advice and only apply some of it. You don't have to apply all of it.
No, you don't have to. But hearing is the most important part of it. That's right. So I'm ready to hear a lot of advice because I'm going to give you this survey.
Okay.
Right now, orally, I'm not going to have you sit in front of the laptop and do it. Are you ready to do this?
I'm ready.
Okay. So first of all, you're allowed to pass.
Okay.
I'm going to allow you 3 passes.
All right.
I mean, these aren't that hard-hitting questions.
I know. I'm wondering because I'll go pretty deep, so
I
can't imagine I'm going to pass.
I just want you to know that you can if you want. I actually.
Well, thank you.
I'll be disappointed if you pass, but you're allowed to.
Okay. You're like, you will let me down in a way that will be hard to recover from.
That's right.
But feel free.
Yes. So I'm going to ask you all the questions, even though some of them have in some ways already been answered. So what kind of pet or pets do you keep?
I have one German Shepherd. She's a year and a half old. I'm rigorously training her. Because I just love to teach also. I like to watch a person or a pet learn. It's really satisfying.
Okay, hold on. I'm going to time out because I know enough about you. You're like, I like to dominate other.
Here's the thing.
I like to win.
Yes. Here's the thing. I joke with a friend of mine, have this ongoing joke that I'm like, I am living life exactly correctly. And if people would just allow me to give them notes, their lives would be so much better. And that's, I feel that in every way.
So do you feel like, I'm going to follow up too. And again, I want commentary on these. I mean, there's something satisfying about teaching an animal how to do something and it learns.
Yeah.
And then it both makes the animal's life better and your life better. But, however, is there something else there where it's like, oh, I get to shape this creature in exactly the way that I want?
Kind of. I specifically got a puppy. I mean, I rescued her, if you will. But I specifically got a puppy.
Hold on. I just want to say this. This term rescue, it's so
silly.
Dramatic.
It's very dramatic.
I rescued this Pomeranian.
Yeah. And I joke in my stand-up that any dog that any of us have adopted would be so much happier living on the street eating garbage. They don't want to eat kibble. They don't want to be inside all day. You know, they don't want this life. And yet we're like, look at the better life I've provided you. They don't care.
Well, I'm going to push back because I think that we have bred some dogs.
Sure.
That if they were out on the mean streets, they wouldn't last very long.
Yeah, that also describes most people.
It's indeed. Indeed. I have a comic friend who has a bit about how when the apocalypse happens, you'll be begging homeless people.
Absolutely.
For tips on how to survive. Like these people are more robust than they're given credit for. But your dog sounds like a kind of dog who would thrive on the streets.
Oh, she absolutely would.
Yeah.
She would have such a great time. Although I think she does really love me. She hasn't said it.
These are not mutually,
but I feel it.
These are not mutually exclusive paths. Why do you have a pet? Check all that apply. Companionship, protection, gets me out of the house, for example, exercise. Receive attention from others, make friends. For the love, to breed or show, gives me purpose. And finally, something else.
I definitely companionship, a little bit of protection. Although realistically, if somebody was breaking into the house, my first priority would be to keep her safe rather than myself or any of my belongings. Like the thought of somebody coming in and her being the first line of defense and getting hurt, I can't even imagine that. I'm so protective of my dog.
So can you really say
and
protection?
she of me? To a degree, because I do like to go for long walks at night,
Okay.
and I feel so much safer with
Sure.
her because she looks intimidating.
Mhm.
I think realistically, if somebody came out to us, she might bark viciously for a minute and then sniff them and start wagging her tail.
Okay, yeah.
I would also say for the love, not for the attention. I don't care about, but although it is nice if I'm driving with her in the car and it like, people are smiling at her, that feels good,
Okay.
but it feels good in a way of like, I like that. I feel like I'm part of releasing the tension of being stuck in traffic, which feels nice. I don't remember a couple of the other things, but I will say when I got her, it wasn't pandemic. I had been unemployed for like 6 months at that time. And so my days were just kind of, I get up early most days, and not early, but like 8, which for a comic may as well be the crack of dawn.
Indeed.
And I had some structure in my life, but having her and having to walk her 3 times a day and feed her and bathe her and take her to the vet and all that stuff has added so much structure to my life in such a good way. And I feel like I've gotten more things done. I've been more on top of tasks. I've gotten more organized. And I think that all of that links back to having a dog.
Gives me purpose. Structure?
Purpose feels like too heavy of a word because it feels like I already had a lot of drive and I felt connected to my career and my friendships and things.
Okay.
But it definitely keeps me from having an excuse to sleep in till noon.
Right. Okay. That's good.
Mm-hmm.
I'm adding structure to the survey.
Oh, good.
Which best describes your relationship with your pet? My life partner. My best friend.
Mm-hmm.
A friend. My child. I'm not done yet. But I think I know the answer. A teammate. My employee. My protector.
Mm-hmm.
Something else.
I would say, given that I am a 37-year-old woman who is keenly aware of the dwindling time I have to have children, I would say this is my child.
Okay. Am I missing some other like role or relationship that might?
Nothing that I can think of. I mean, I would feel like a little bit like she's my best friend because I don't know, because she's really playful and we do activities like hike and things that I do with friends. Yeah,
maybe play partner or something might be a fun thing for. But again, this is the most. There's a different way to structure this question, which is check all that apply, right? Like, and I might end up doing something where I'm going to say, what are the relationships that you have, and then what's the most important or the dominant one?
Okay.
How many hours a week do you spend caring for your pet?
Oh.
And now I have this as 0 to 1 hour, 1 to 5, 5 to 10, 10 to 15, 15 to 20, 20 plus. It's a weird scale, maybe.
It depends on the week. I would say 15 to 20 or 20 plus, depending on if I'm on the road, because I do.
Should I make this scale bigger? Like, will there be people who say 40 hours a week? No, they don't.
That's
caring.
That's a lot.
That's a lot of caring.
I mean, here's where I'm having a hard time deciding is, what do you define as care? Because do you mean active care, like taking her?
I think a walk would be caring for your dog.
Oh, definitely 20 plus, because I take her on 3 walks a day and then I'll take her to the park a few times a week.
If you don't get that Grammy,
yeah,
I'm going to point out some opportunity costs.
Okay. I take her to group obedience classes. She has her first agility class when I get back. So there's a lot of things I'm trying to make her well-rounded.
You're teaching a dog how to be agile. Don't they come that way?
The agility classes are like, it's the ones where they're jumping over things and going through little tunnels. It's just for fun. It's just the place that I've taken her. There's this place in the Valley in LA called Zoom Room. And so we do group obedience classes where they learn, really where I learn how to teach her things.
Right.
And they also offer agility classes, and they also offer scent training, which you bet your ass I'm going to get her into scent training for no reason other than how cool if my dog could just sniff out things.
If your dog can find psilocybin, that would be wonderful.
If she could find psilocybin, I might sell her. Imagine what I could make.
All right, let's keep moving. We're really into this. Okay, so how much money do you spend on your pet in a year?
Oh, a year? I don't want to think about that figure. I don't know. It depends.
Can I give the scale?
Yeah. Oh, yes, absolutely.
Give the scale.
Sorry.
$1 to $500, $500 to $1,000, $1,000 to $2,000, $2,000 to $4,000, $4,000 to $8,000, or more than $8,000.
I would say maybe 1,000 to 2,000.
How much? Wait, hold on. How much does scent training cost?
Oh, they do packages, so it's like $300 for 30 classes or something like that, which isn't terrible. So between that and I do get her high end food and toys every now and again and treats and things, so probably 1,000 to 2,000.
Okay, check. Does your pet sleep in your bed?
She does.
Yes. No. Okay. Do you take better care of your pet than yourself?
It depends on the day, Peter.
Yes or no?
I will say I always take care of my pet, and there are days when I'm just not in the mood for self-care.
So,
but I think I take pretty good care of myself overall.
Wait, hold on. But
her care is consistent and mine is not.
You take better care of your pet than yourself.
Sure.
Okay.
I hate to admit that. You see how I was trying to reword that in a way where I was like, you don't know what I'm saying.
By the way, for all of these, I have tell us more so people can elaborate. So, does your pet look like you? Yes, a lot. Yes, a little. No.
I think she's starting to. I think we're starting to fuse together as one. Because she's a German Shepherd, but she only has she looks like Scooby-Doo. She is black on her face, but the rest of her body is a light brown. And I'm blonde. So I feel like, and we're very similar in how active we are. And she's also pretty funny, I have to say.
This is just looks only, though.
Yeah.
What is the most ridiculous, strange, most embarrassing thing you have done for your pet?
Oh, I don't know. Everything is embarrassing to a degree, isn't it?
I feel very comfortable. This is a unique podcast experience for you.
Oh, absolutely. One thing I think people may think is silly. I used to wipe her paws every time we came in the house.
Okay.
I no longer do because her paws are really sensitive and it was irritating them a little bit. So I stopped doing that. Maybe just my nonstop cuddling and trying to pick her up and talking to her in a baby voice. The baby voice is definitely embarrassing.
Do you do that in front of other people?
Sometimes I talk to people in a baby voice on accident because I'm so used to it.
What does that sound like?
I was on the road with my friend Rachel recently and we were staying together. And then in the morning when I woke up, I looked over at Rachel and I go, "Good morning." And I was like, oh no, what did I just do? So just little things like that where I'm like, oh, I'm an adult talking in a baby voice in public. This is pretty ridiculous.
You're on the cusp of middle age and you're doing this.
Yeah. Oof.
Don't stop, please. Do you bring your pet to restaurants or cafes?
I don't because she's I would like to, but my priority is being considerate of others. And right now she's 1.5 years old, which means she's a teenager and she's kind of rebelling against me at times and not always listening. And I despise people that bring dogs into restaurants that are not well behaved. And I refuse to be one of those people. I took her to my local weed store recently and she did really well in there. I take her to Petco regularly.
Oh, actually, that's my follow-up question. Do you bring your pet shopping?
Here and there where it's very acceptable. I don't try to push the rules if somebody doesn't want a dog in a space because I've worked retail and I've worked in restaurants, and in places I've worked where pets aren't allowed, when people would insist on bringing their pet, it drove me out of my mind.
If I may do a little bit of commentary here, I tend to editorialize a lot in this podcast. I do find the acceptance of dogs. So first of all, there's two elements that I think is interesting about bringing dogs into restaurants and other public spaces or indoor spaces, private spaces. One is it's only acceptable to bring dogs. No other pets are acceptable.
Right.
So there's already that I notice, and then the other one is, there's a lot of human beings, other paying customers who are allergic, who are scared of dogs, have had bad experiences with them. And so the comfort and I think this is somewhat regional. I think that there are certain places where dogs are especially welcome.
Yeah.
In towns like Los Angeles and so on, that I've noticed more so than I think in other places and so on. So I just think it's interesting, especially when people insist on it.
I don't ever want to be one of those people that insists on it. Sometimes it's hard because, I'll take her to the park and I want to stop somewhere for lunch. And I don't know yet which because I got her during quarantine and everything was shut down. And so I'm not aware of all the places that are dog friendly.
Yes. It's the same way that a restaurant might be kid friendly or not.
Yeah.
It should be dog friendly or not.
Yeah. I find that I'm not like going out to lunch, or it's a little harder to run errands that way because I'm like, well, I have to take her to the park because she's a puppy and she needs to get her energy out. But I don't have time to take her to the park, drive all the way back home, and then go all the way back. You're
already putting 20 plus hours of care into this animal.
Yes. So I'm like, well, if I can't buy groceries, I can't buy groceries. So be it. I guess I'll just eat protein bars all the time.
Right.
What was you said the first thing.
That pets, that dogs are allowed and no other dogs are allowed.
Yeah, I think that's because you can train a dog. You can't really train a cat. And I do find cats to be, there's something that's disgusting about cats to me. And I like them, but I wouldn't want one in my home. And I think it's the kitty litter thing. I think I can't see a cat without thinking of a box of shit in your home. And that is so vile. I can't believe people do that. It blows my mind.
I think there's other ways to have a cat and not have kitty litter, though. No.
Yeah, I have a cousin that has a couple of cats, and but they're outdoor cats mostly. She cut out like a little section of her French door, like one of the windows, and the cats come and go. And so her house is immaculate and it smells clean, and there isn't just a box of shit in the corner at all times. Sorry if that's like too gross.
No, it's fine. I don't have a preference. I'm largely dispassionate about these topics. I'm just an observer. I'm just trying to understand it all. I mean, let's just step back for a second, if I may. In some ways, it's crazy that people have an animal living in their house.
It's entirely crazy. I think it's
peculiar.
Yes.
You know what I mean? It's peculiar that people own another being.
And that they just grab it out of the... I mean, in the case of dogs, like this rescue I got her from was like, oh, we just found these puppies in Tijuana. And it's so, when you think about it, it is very weird that you just go out into nature and snatch an animal and you're like, I'm making its life better.
Now, the history of dogs is interesting. Humans' relationships with dogs is truly unique. They are fundamentally humans' best friend.
Yes.
They evolved from wolves. This is a long time relationship, thousands of years old, that has obviously developed and changed and so on. And then, of course, as humans tend to do, especially people who have lots of resources, they take these things to bizarre, crazy places, right? Like what once was a wolf that helped you in a utilitarian way now sits in your pocketbook as an accessory.
Yeah, I have to say that makes me cringe when somebody has a dog just as an accessory.
Lisa, I understand. I get it. The way you own a dog is correct. The way everyone else owns pets is incorrect.
If everyone could just take notes on my life.
If everybody would just get a 70-pound German Shepherd, train them, agility
Absolutely.
style. I get it. No, I think
It is really fascinating to me also to think of the history of dogs, because I found out my dog is part Chow Chow, and they were bred to be very loyal to one person specifically. And I feel like she's very attached to me in that way. And I don't, maybe she just is because that's her personality.
Hold on.
Uh-huh.
Let me feed your dog for a month.
Look, my roommates feed her every time I'm gone, and she still seems to prefer me.
That's fair. All right, I take it back. I'm wrong.
I mean, a month is a long time, though, Peter. She might
I'm
forget
charming.
about me.
I am charming. Who is the boss in your household? You or your pet?
Definitely me.
Okay.
I make sure of that. I mean, I'm not in a mean way.
No,
it's all positive reinforcement.
It's boss is in quotation marks.
Yeah.
Okay. If you're dating, you're sort of dating, you're single-ish. Does your pet help or hurt your dating life? I'm not dating anyone. Helps, hurts, helps and hurts. No effect.
I would add another category that is, my dog is my first priority. I don't look to her to help my dating life, but I wouldn't say she could possibly hurt it, because she wins in the her versus any guy.
She's going to win every time. We're getting to that question. Don't worry. So you would say no effect. Your dog has no effect on your dating life.
I would say no effect, but it's because of my own insistence that it not affect it.
Okay. If you had to choose between your partner or your pet.
Not even there's no contest.
Definitely choose my pet. Definitely choose my partner. Probably choose my partner. Probably choose my pet. Definitely choose.
Yeah,
my pet.
definitely choose my pet. It's. I think if I started dating somebody and they were like, yeah, just dogs aren't my thing, I'd be like, okay, well, you're not my thing then. Toodaloo. And that's fine, but I don't know, actually a lot of judgment on that person. I was gonna say no judgment, and that's a lie. I really love my dog, and she's not going anywhere. So yeah, it's definitely her over someone else.
Used to it, fellas. What products or services do you wish were offered to help you with your pet ownership?
There's a lot I didn't know going into having a dog. Because I had dogs when I was a kid. We always had labs, and they always kind of just ran free on our property. And, we're, to say we took care of them would be really generous. There's a lot of things I didn't know. For example, German Shepherds are largely allergic to poultry and beef. And I was feeding her both of those things because I was switching out her food to keep so she wouldn't get bored of it. And I noticed she was missing little patches of her hair. And then I talked to a friend about it, and they were like, no, you got to switch her to all like fish-based food. So I didn't know that. And then just like a couple other medical things that I didn't know. And I think that vets largely take it for granted and think that, oh, well, you have a dog. You have all the information. And I've had to tell them multiple times, I'm like, hey, I don't know anything about raising a dog. So any information you have that is helpful.
So like an owner's manual.
Yes. Ooh, maybe I should make one, Peter. What a great idea. I'm glad you suggested it.
It's amazing how many things you have to study and get certified to do. And having a baby and owning an animal, largely.
Both should come with, at the very least, a pamphlet.
Or, at least maybe some online tests. If you don't pass it, you can't have it.
Ooh, then we get into tricky territory, because I think everybody should be taking online tests to see if they should be in public, if they should sit in an emergency row, like all kinds of things.
Of course, we need to put people in their proper.
Yes,
that's right. Yeah.
You can strive to be on that list, but you don't automatically get put on it.
I agree. Once you're sitting in the exit row, it's too late.
I trust almost no one. When the attendant comes around and they're like, in the event of an emergency, do you promise to help out? And then I look over and it's like an 80-pound person who looks like they can't fend for themselves in any way. I'm like, you think they're gonna open this trap door? I will.
You're giving we're not going to digress.
Okay.
But the likelihood of needing those doors in the case of emergency.
The likelihood of surviving and then needing the doors.
That's right.
Is slim.
It is indeed. Any other products or services that come to mind?
I don't know. I guess I wish there was a way for brands to be more transparent about whether they were healthy or good for your dog or not. I didn't know, for example, that rawhide is really bad.
Oh,
for
I didn't know
dogs.
that either.
They're very bad because it's not like meat, so their body doesn't break it down. And
Okay.
if you give your dog rawhide treats regularly, they can stop up in their stomach, and they may need surgery to get because they don't.
Rawhide treats are the swallowing gum of pet life.
Yes, but worse.
real.
Like your
Yeah.
pet may end up needing surgery to get it removed.
Really?
Because it takes them so long to digest them and break them down that they can compound or compact
Okay.
in their stomach.
Oh, that's awful.
Mm-hmm.
Well, if people have stuck with you past the cat comments, they might have learned something now.
Well, I feel like
Well,
only
actually,
dog owners would
That's
have stuck
right.
past,
That's right.
So,
Yeah,
yeah.
It doesn't matter. That's right. Anything else you want to tell us about your experience with your pet, its importance in your life, and your approach to caring for it?
It's really lovely having a pet, and it's nice. It's fulfilling. They give you nonstop love, as I said. And I think that you can make time for a dog. I know I'm really upset by this is a little bit of a digression, but there's a lot of people that got pets over quarantine only to return them later. And that makes me,
I've heard about this, yes.
it makes me furious.
Mhm.
I want them all to walk into traffic.
After the pet's been returned.
Yes. That's horrifying. I think I wish people also were gentler with their pets because they don't know. They can't speak English. They're helpless largely. Like once they're domesticated and they're in your home, they're completely helpless and they're depending on you.
They're dependent on you, right?
Yeah.
That's the entire point.
And so just be nice to them
Mhm.
and just love them back.
Am I missing any types of questions, any topics that are...
I don't know. I would like to know how to travel with my pet. I've driven across the country with her a couple of times, and she's lovely in the car. But I have gotten no tips on how to fly with my dog. I've asked people, "What's the best airline to fly with your dog on?" And the answer I get is, "Oh, never put your dog in with the cargo." And I'm like, "What?"
Well,
I never would have.
I heard this just recently. The FAA
Mhm.
no longer allows dogs on planes unless they can fit under the front seat.
Oh no! Well,
I
then
need
I
to
can't.
double check that, but
Yeah. Well, then I will be
As of
driving home for Christmas.
yeah,
I
as
guess.
of April, I think.
Ew, why is that?
I think if you take a non-dog owner's perspective,
Mhm.
it makes a lot of sense.
Okay.
People are afraid of pets.
Uh-huh.
They're allergic.
Yeah.
There's incidents.
I'm hearing people are weak, Peter. That's what I'm hearing.
I know that's what you're hearing. The planes are completely packed and full.
Mhm.
I think the counter argument that a pet owner might have is, if I'm willing to buy my pet a seat,
Mhm.
why can't I bring my pet
Mhm.
on the plane?
Yeah, I mean, I did go through the trouble of getting her a little vest, a service animal vest, and I am vest training her now, which it's a very slow process, and I'm just at the very beginning of it. Vest training meaning so she knows when I have this vest on, I'm working and I can't.
Right. Yeah. Can we get that for people in general?
If only.
I want to point out another topic that I'm doing for a single insight that's relevant here, and it's about solos and the holidays and how disproportionately single people have to do the travel.
Yeah.
That it falls on your shoulders as the single person to make the trip and to fight.
Always my responsibility.
Fight the traffic, fight the airports, pay top dollar for flights, etc.
Yeah.
And that seems a little unfair to me at times.
It seems unfair, but also there is no world in which I want my family coming to my house for the holidays. My situation,
your local
is
situation
separate, yeah.
aside, in general, I think that's the case.
Yeah, I think that there's a lot of things that are put on single people, and I choose which of them I participate in and don't, but I try to be considerate of other people maybe not wanting my dog in their space. That same principle is not applied to people with children. It's just understood that their child will be everywhere misbehaving all the time, which is really frustrating. And I find holidays, any kind of celebration, weddings, they all can be annoying.
Well, I mean, we're here to, change the way people think about
Mm-hmm.
these things. And I'm starting to get more and more focused on communicating. I call them allies,
Mm-hmm.
so like
Yeah.
non-single family and friends. How might you think differently about
Mm-hmm.
your single family and friends in terms of the assumptions you make about their life, the questions you ask them,
Yeah.
what you ask them to do, what you ask them to not do, or what you don't ask them to do.
Yeah.
I should say what you omit them from, exclude
Mhm.
them from, and so on. I actually have a solo show on Fireside that I do in which I brought together a panel
Mm-hmm.
to talk through some of that stuff.
Mhm.
You can find that on my blog if you want. I'm not talking to you, Lisa. I'm talking to people
Mhm.
listening, of course. I know you're not going to spend any time on my blog.
Yeah.
Um,
I do think I'll add on to the Christmas, the holidays thing, where I find that single people are also tasked with errands, because it's like, well, my husband and I are here spending time together. So you take this person to the airport and you babysit the kids and it's like, by choosing to be single, I didn't opt into a life of being your assistant.
Yes.
And I'm happy to help, but it's always, it seems
You're like,
to
I'm
always
already
be,
on the sofa
yes.
bed.
Yes, I'm already in the most uncomfortable place. I'm living in a communal area where I'm just being interrupted by your life constantly. But it doesn't, people, I think of being single as the same as being a child.
It's just, it's lower status,
Mhm.
right? It's like this relationship is
Mhm.
more important. And so why would I not spend time with my partner to run this errand?
Mm-hmm.
Let's
Exactly.
give the job to someone who doesn't have anything better to do.
Yes. And I'm like, no, the whole reason I'm single is because I have many, many more things that are better to do. That's the whole idea.
You're not fully a type 2. You're not a fully a just may. I just want to bring this full circle and say
I'm more of a 3?
I'm not sure. I'm not saying you're look, I would say this, it's easier for you to be a no way with your pet than not.
Yeah.
But
Absolutely. Because I want some kind of companionship, but I'm also this isn't a huge indictment on some of
By the way, we're ending on this. So
Yeah.
just let's let it go.
Yeah, this is a huge indictment on some of the men I've dated. But I am just as entertained talking to my dog and hanging out with her as I am with a man sometimes.
Ladies and gentlemen, Lisa Curry.
Thank you so much for having me on.
This is very fun. Cheers.
Thank you for listening to Solo, the single person's guide to a remarkable life. For more about our guests and show notes, go to petermcgraw.org. Please subscribe and share with your single friends.